Of course it is. He's on.
Oh, he's in.
He's in the matrix.
Yeah.
You know. Alright,
We're like, oh, we're high.
okay, we are live. Welcome everybody to the June Downtown Advisory Board meeting. Muted as well, please. Alright.
We're like, oh, we're high.
Okay, these are live. Welcome everybody to the June Downtown Advisory Board meeting.
Here we go.
No, it's okay, thank you. Alright, we'll settle in. We've got Kiana and Kirk joining us via Zoom. Hello. We'll start with a call to order. Myself, I am here. Charles Weathers. Here. Kirk Sund here via Zoom. Alan Pollock. Here. Roy McManus. Not here. Kiana Chase. Here via Zoom. Lori Miller. Here. Ernesto Tuskovich. Here. Angie Hogan.
Here.
And we've got 2 vacant slots. Before I move to item 3, do we have some applicants? I heard someone ask me about the applicants.
Yeah, somebody in my Rubicon wants to choose.
Cool. Yeah, it'd be great to get those vacancies filled.
And
So-
Ursula, who's an esthetician, I don't know her last name right offhand.
Oh, I know her.
Most people know Ursula.
Yeah, she's great.
She actually approached me about joining, so I think she is pretty interested in just get her the website, is that right?
Yeah, I would direct her to Tori.
Secondly, nothing help connect her to the application.
No, that would be great. Okay, approval of our agenda.
Looks good.
Then a second.
Yeah.
If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of the agenda say aye. Those not nay. Motion carries. And I'll just go ahead and assume that those are 2 ayes from Kiana and Kirk.
Yes, and I'm happy to come off mute if I need to or do anything else, so just let me know.
It's okay. And let the minutes reflect Roy McGinnis is present. Here he is here. Moving forward to agenda item number 4, the approval of our minutes from our April 24th meeting.
Oh, yeah, I approve those minutes, they're great.
I can.
Thanks, thank you.
Oh.
And if there's no further discussion, all those in favor of the approval of our minutes from our April 24th meeting say aye.
Aye.
Those not nay. Motion carries. Public comment. Is there any persons wishing to address the board on any matter other than those which appear on this agenda? Okay. There are no action items either. So we're gonna be moving forward to agenda item number 7. And we are gonna make one modification to accommodate some time restraints from. So we're gonna move C up to A, and I apologize, I probably should have done that in agenda item 3 with an amendment, but we're just gonna roll with it. So we're gonna move it up C to A, which is the paid parking in the next phase of downtown street work.
You want to serve it first?
Oh, excuse me, you're not C.
He's first.
I'm happy to go first, but I don't have any time restrictions.
Oh, I thought it was the parking.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, you're already first. He's ready to go first.
Sorry, Sarah Long.
That's what I get for trying to help.
I'm here, it's fine.
So am I up, or are we doing rock, paper, scissors kind of?
We could, Robert, that could be fun. I'll let you go first.
You're so much too.
Good to go? You're gonna go, I apologize for that.
Hi, everybody. I am Robert Chandler. I'm Assistant Director of Public Works here. I'm here to talk to you about proposed revisions to the sound code. Bit of a long story about why Public Works is doing the revisions to the sound code. It primarily involves recreation and activities in parks with amplified sound. We were at one point, Public Works had recreation services, and we started doing this and went to recreation services for reorganization. And now we're back at Public Works because I can do it. So we're here to talk about this. It's a courtesy briefing. There's no action required, but if you have any comments, questions, issues, concerns, I'm happy to hear them. Next. Wait, wait, here. That's me. So a bit of history, the sound code was created in 2011. Before that, if you're gonna do any event anywhere that amplifies sound, you had to go to city council. The city council decided that was kind of laborious. And so they created sound code 2011, and basically it gives you process permits, establishing rules, regulations, permitting, enforcement capacity, and that's what we've been following pretty much for the past 15 years. And next. It's time to change it. We have 15 years of lessons learned. What works, what doesn't work, or actually, few things don't work, a few things work well. It's just what works better than others, what we need to do to adjust them. So among the things that these amendments do, we're simplifying the process for getting sound permits. And we're shortening timeframes, we're codifying certain practices that sort of become how we manage these permits. The health officer, which is a sound and collateral duty, depending on the type of event, has more authority, clarifying the authority of the health officer as far as establishing sound limits, extending or contracting time periods, shortening the application process. And then we're reducing the burden on an event organizer. I've been an event organizer before. I've gone through our system. Some of lessons learned are mine. So public notification is not required if the event, that's a big one, it's not required if the event is in the city park. And that's part of my reason for coming to talk to you all, because Riverfront Park is in the downtown a parking district is how we define it. And notification of an event in Riverfront Park to all the people in here is really laborious. And actually, it doesn't really do much because it implies if you get notification that you have a say in the event. And actually, we really don't unless it's a really big issue. And we got very, very, very few comments back. After 15 years of doing this, very few comment about notification. But was still required, we foisted it upon the event organizer. So we said, you don't have to do this because of it. So if it's an issue in the city park, you don't need to do a notification. Clarified the neighbor notification. The current code says if there's a likelihood the neighbor's going to hear it, you need to notify the neighborhood. I live in South Salem. I've heard events from Riverfront Park. When we conducted events from Riverfront Park, we got complaints from West Salem. So this is more of a notification within specific neighborhood association. So they are well informed. And we short lead time. A lot of people, well-intentioned, great events, they're all prepped for it. They don't realize they need 2 months to apply for the sound. So we shorten it. But again, making it easier for the event organizers. And there we are. So click one more next, please. I think that's the big change, is that if the event is in a public park, you don't need to do notification. It's just pretty straightforward, and again, lessons learned. It wasn't that easy. What's next? Oh, there we are. We're doing internal review, final review. My partners over at Recreation Services, and click for legal review to make sure you got it right. Get final details, and if everything goes well, including my schedule, sometime later this summer, we'll take it to council. That's it's actually a pretty sweet little code as codes go. And the nice thing is that it's well, it's nice to set up, and it works. We'll make it work. Any questions or comments? Thoughts?
So is there limits in terms of decibels? How high?
Yes, the question was, is there limits to decibels? There is, and I think, spare slides one more. Next, one more. Yes, there are limits. Interestingly, the current sound code does not set a maximum limit. So we said we should probably do that. So we added 100 decibels, and that's a new one, and that's for events in parks.
Very good.
But if you see story, I used to be a sonar officer. Decibels are really variable in how you measure it, and the medium, and transmission, and attenuation, and all of that. So this range of what the decibel really means is kind of illustrative of what we mean. But the current code has decibel limits based on time of day. If you're in an industrial or commercial area, or if you're what's called a noise sensitive area at night. Usually facility, churches, education, things like that. So there are limits in there, which form the basis for enforcement if somebody is cranking up the true story, the pool party into the wee hours. So we have that. Yes, sir.
It sounds like there's been lots of lessons learned over the past decade. It's probably complaint driven. So how many complaint issues have you had with the noise ordinance?
I don't, the question was how many complaint issues have we got? I don't know, partly because I don't get them.
Sure, yeah. Right.
And a lot of them is that they're hearing an event from, I'll say far away, sound travels. Again, South Salem, I hit the railroad, into Union Pacific, cranking, like it's next door. So sound does weird things and it varies, of course. The main complaints we get is that somebody has an event, usually a city park, often a neighborhood park, and their sound is too loud. Or an event like a river park that goes past the hour that we said we're gonna go past. It usually goes way past, and it's hard to shut down an exciting concert, bang on 11 o'clock. But if we're still cranking on 11:30, it's like 10 o'clock, 11:30, midnight, that's complaint. That's more than it.
Sure.
So that's generally the nature of it. More often, it's the issues that we contend with back when both I was doing it, or the staff that did it, and now the rec services, is the complaints were more, I didn't know I had to apply for this permit this much in advance. I didn't know I had to do these notifications, or how do I do these kinds of things? So it's more of that's the generation lesson.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Other thoughts, comments?
What's a typical outdoor amphitheater concert decibel level, say, neighboring cities or something?
A typical outdoor amphitheater level, I don't know for sure. The 100 decibel level, which again, depending on a reference, and it can be cross-checked some other codes from other jurisdictions, and it varies, is 100 decibels is pretty loud. And that's why we chose 100 decibels.
Because I could see it in a neighborhood park being really loud, like if you have a massive event at the riverfront, you'd think it could be a little bit louder than
You would.
the neighborhood.
As a side note, because I was involved with the process that built the Jerry Frank Salem Rotary Amphitheater, orientation of the amphitheater was very interesting. Trying to balance between, my buddies in West Salem, cranking it up for the downtown area broadly. If you get a chance to go to a big concert, El Rey, or any other ones, you see the speaker array that is draped coming out of the top and around from the side. That's a lot of sound, and that's a lot of amps, and it can be a lot of decibels, and it goes out. But 100 decibels is the measure of maximum. And I got numbers from several event organizers and people who manage events. Like what's it called? Hayden Homes Amphitheater, and some other ones, because it buys hundreds of them.
Okay.
And how you measure it, of course. And the amphitheater is actually, our amphitheater here is a very live spot. You want a cheap thrill when you're walking there, stand center line on the stage, you clap your hands, you'll bounce around. It's kind of fun. Any other thoughts?
I'm curious, similar topic. Is there a code that restricts the loudness of cars driving through downtown Salem? It seems that creates more interruption to restaurants and businesses than occasional concert.
Is there a code that addresses loud vehicles? Harley Davidson motorcycles, for example?
Like mufflers removed,
Yeah.
and very, very, I would say, shotgun level noises.
To my knowledge, there's no code under city ordinances that addresses loud vehicles. There might be something in the Division of Motor Vehicles, got some rules about what you can do for muffling. Sound code, to some degree, this one and other noise ordinances, public nuisance ordinances, there's actually a time limit for how long the sound has to go before it's a valid complaint. The context of that is barking dogs. If the dog is barking more than 10 minutes, I think it's the number, then you have an opportunity to file a complaint that this person violating a public nuisance code. Not this one, but so there's usually a time limit, but there's loud cars going by the one. I think it's more
Thank
efficient. No, my pleasure. Other thoughts, questions? Thank you for bringing me in, and it's been a pleasure. I don't get here very often. I think my first week with you guys, so appreciate it very much. Thanks for your attention, and that concludes my briefing. I do have to head off, so I will appreciate it, and you guys have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Very much. Thanks, Bert.
Moving forward to information report, block 50, Lori and Dana.
Wanna start?
Sure.
I know you've got the document. I don't know that you know everything I know.
So. Block 50 site, everyone, that's located right, that's true.
The old UGM site.
Old UGM site off of commercial center. And with the alley access ways through there. So been through the process of solicitation, selection, entered into a memorandum of understanding with Evelyn in February 2024. And since then, we've been working with them to progress toward a disposition development agreement and doing some work that we've had to do just to prepare the site. So some of that work involving preparing the site, geological survey, environmental. So that's process is close to concluding, and at the same time, Elan's been going through with their team to refine their concept, and so when they went through the selection process, they have a pretty high level concept. And now they're starting to boil it down, have a pre-application conference where they can lay out floor plans and site plans. So some of that to share with you guys. Location again, center commercial, across the street to the west. So proposing for kind of the site plan. To the south is the plaza area, yellow area, orange retail, kind of reddish orange retail. Lobbies, the yellow areas, and then housing is blue. The parking to the west. So as far as timing, again, it's been some time since March, since February, obviously. It takes time to get through these processes. So just wanted that you guys praised.
And Tori, what happened with the environmental issue?
So we're going through that now. As we've been negotiating the disposition development agreement, the initial proposals brochure was intended. So they've hit the streets trying to market grocery, and that's been difficult. So now they're looking at ground floor housing. So with our, we had a no further action, DEQ.
Oh,
So
that's good.
yeah, well, we have that for commercial retail, now we're looking at housing, so we need to do a little bit more, we have to. It's been following that a little closer, so I can
Change it.
first
Yeah, we're gonna have to mitigate, the developers are wanting a PPA, so we have to go through the process to. With DEQ to figure out what are the things that need to happen
Okay, so that's
in order for the change, so that's kind of where a lot of the.
But would they require changes depending upon what you're gonna build on it?
Yes, yes, so having housing at the bottom requires more barrier. It's not insurmountable, but it does require some mitigation. And then the other piece that I would just flag is, in their original design, there was a request from city council to do a public plaza. And when we got through pre-application conference, we were told that didn't fit code. And so we're needing to renegotiate kind of if we can reduce the public plaza space. So that's really need to talk to a couple of city council who requested that and see if we can, you know, maybe have the building go out to Chemeketa, at least on the backside, on the alley side. Because we don't want it to be hidden, right? We don't want it to be a plaza that becomes actually more problematic than not, but we are trying to get a little closer to code requirements, because the setback's only supposed to be at 10 feet, which is just too much, so. The developer does not have a problem with adding more square footage to the building. So we just need to get some agreement from a couple of the requesters.
Is this about 65 apartments?
Ooh, I think we're more than that.
Floors? One, two.
I think we're,
I don't know the total, I have to.
I feel like we're
Looks like
close to
15 per-
130.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah, it looks like 15 per floor,
well,
4
but
floors.
it's, so you have, on the floors above, you have blue all the way, you don't have the commercial going all the way up.
Oh, that's what that is.
Yeah,
Well, it's gonna be
yeah.
good.
Yeah,
So is it just one level of parking?
it's only, yeah, that's the only parking you see. Yep. So they're gonna want to utilize, send people to this parking, or.
So why wouldn't they develop more parking instead of city plaza? I mean, we have so many plazas that we don't even know how to manage.
Well, first we were requesting it, so that's part of the negotiation.
Yeah,
And secondly, parking isn't required. So
but it would be
for
nice.
any project, it's just a part of the puzzle that zoning code doesn't require parking. So, you know, yes, for their usability, it might be helpful for them too, but that's true for all development with the city. So,
Their tenants are gonna love the paid parking.
I know, huh?
yeah, yep.
How many parking spaces is that? I mean, that's.
I don't remember.
I started sort of counting, but it looks like,
Well, if you're gonna have retail, it's so important to have some parking if you can.
Yeah.
The development plans can allow for it.
yeah,
But coincidentally, it is right across the street from our largest
yeah.
parking garage, which
Yeah.
is such an advantage. I'm so excited for the update. I was here when we set the subcommittee. I've been here probably too long. But I was here when we set up a subcommittee with Councilor Nishioka was but a humble DAB member.
Yeah.
And her and someone else were part of that and talked about what the city could do to prepare this to go out to the development community. And even though we had so much thinking that went into it on the front end about preparing the site, until you really get into the dirt, to the soil, geological testing and environmental testing, you really don't know what you have. And clearly it's played out. And frankly, it's probably been with the environment we're in to the advantage of the developer to wait with some of these market conditions, but no one's moving forward with an active open DEQ file without an NFA on file at all, so.
So they're gonna, they don't have an NFA for this new design, so we will have to negotiate a PPA before they.
So I'm curious, do you remember what contaminated the site?
I think it was
Just be a gas station.
gas station.
Well, it used to be a
Yeah,
gas station.
yeah.
I don't have the exact unit count on hand, but is there a percentage that's being affordable?
Yes.
20%.
At what AMI percentage,
I wanna say 8. Yeah, it's not,
that makes sense.
yeah,
And the remainder then market rate. They look pretty small too, are those targeted to be one bedroom or studios or
we have,
a mix?
they give some studios, there's 1, 2, and a couple 3.
Okay. Well, thank you for the update. Does anybody have any other questions?
Well, speaking of soils too, done to with the geotech report, so we. That those findings were pretty positive, now they need to work with the development plans to see exactly structurally where things lie and also look for some. So even now it's a matter of working together.
And we'll likely give, because the design's gonna probably change because of the, plaza, we'll probably give another grant, which is basically pre-funding their 70/40 to help with design work. Because they're not gonna design until we get through all the details unless we help with.
It's an effort to just keep it moving forward. Sure, they have their team together, a long soon, so that way we keep doing our work and they keep.
Yeah.
Sounds collaborative.
Any cool amenities like a zip line to riverfront or something?
Oh, yeah, right? No.
I mean, just if you're the lead developer,
Yeah.
it's super easy to do, I'm sure.
Well, that's very exciting. It'd be great to get periodic updates, not to belabor you, just to update us, but if there's any critical milestones hit, it'd be so great to get an update.
Yeah, we're here anyway, so.
Thank you, Dale. Thank you, Tori. Any other questions for them on that? Okay, moving forward to information report C, paid parking and the next phase of downtown streetscape work. Sarah Long, you have the floor.
Well, I'm not just gonna,
Welcome back.
I know it's been a while, I don't think I've been here on a downtown project in a while, so it's kind of fun, so thanks for letting me hang out with you guys. I feel like usually I'm outside of downtown, I haven't played downtown in probably 13 years, so, but I've been able to play with paid parking.
Beep, beep.
It's coming, this is our fun little logo, so, I was able to provide everyone, a postcard and sort of a rack card, and the rack card will be handing out, especially as it gets closer, of how to do everything. But, you know, I think the big thing is, it's coming on July the 10th. It's moving, obviously, you walked in the front door today and out front there are pay stations, there are signs going up. The goal right now is we're hopeful all the signs downtown should be changed out by the end of this week. The machines will probably be either over the weekend or early next week. You know, I think there's been unfortunately a few days of confusion with folks, which was not our intent. Our machines actually come from Sweden. They were shipped in the spring, and they come on a boat through the ports. The ports have had some issues over the last few months. There's been a few economical changes that have impacted that.
Yeah, what's going on with that?
You know, I don't know, 100%. I will tell you, we actually had a 7-week buffer from when we thought the machines would get here to when we had planned to start installing them, which was on June the 16th. They arrived 10 days before we planned to start installing, so we still thought we were in really good shape. And they sat outside the Port of Seattle for a week and a half before they were allowed to come in for inspection. And that was with pre-customs clearance. So it meant our machines showed up a week later than what we planned on, which is why we sort of had this weird window where the signs are being changed out and there's not a machine, because what you'll notice if you walk up to
Yes.
any of the machines
Yes.
is there is a coming soon sign. So the idea was you see the sign, you see the machine, you click on it, it says coming soon on July the 10th. And unfortunately, every day it's are we gonna get the machines, and we had talked about bagging signs early on. It's not really a good option. People will tear them down immediately, they will tear the stickers off, it actually makes downtown look terrible. We could get much more robust bags. The cost for that is quite a bit, and then we have to have staff to go remove them, and when do they remove them? When they're down here trying to help people. And we actually didn't know we were even gonna run into this issue until it literally happened, because we did have everything timed out. We couldn't push the signs back to start changing everything out, because from here, they actually moved to the Capitol Mall. That is not part of your project, but we are changing all of the pay stations in the entire city to be pay by plate versus pay and display, so that everything's done the same way. So we were able to piggyback our sign install team to do the rest of the work, so that we're getting a better rate citywide. And that all happens for them on July the 10th as well. So we sort of have this big city change July the 10th, not just downtown. So they'll actually be moving next week to the Capitol area to then modify signage throughout the entire city to try and get that done by July the 10th. So it's sort of just this 4 or 5 day window, which, you know, we've had parking enforcement out there, our staff has been out there. We've had people out here running outside, letting folks know, so we've really been doing our best, and so we do apologize for any confusion or any complaints anyone's been getting. That was not our intent. But you know, that's sort of been the biggest, I think, issue we've had so far. If you've had a chance to scan the QR code, we do have a sneak peek of the app currently available. We call it a sneak peek just because we don't want people to start accidentally paying. So we have disabled some of the features. We don't want people to be like, oh, look, I need to pay, and they don't have to pay until the 10th, and then we feel really bad. And we're still doing some testing. We're still doing some testing behind the scenes with the app. We're still making some tweaks to it, trying to make it sort of as user-friendly as we can. But, you know, we expect as people start using it, you know, there may be some additional things that need to be kind of worked out. So again, we recognize everyone's, you know, patience through the process. It's a big change for downtown, for the city, for everyone, because once again, this app will work downtown, but it'll also work in the Capitol. It'll work at the airport. So it'll work for all of our pay stations, and you'll be able to, you know, move around kind of within that realm. Obviously, we're pushing out kind of our next round of marketing. So you're seeing that here. We just did an email blast this morning. We have hard copies going out to every address within the downtown. So every resident, every business, every property owner will be getting that postcard in the mail probably on Monday. Derek, who I don't think you all have had a chance to meet, Derek MacArthur, who will be giving an update here shortly, joined us in October as a project coordinator, but he was a parking officer for several years before that. So we've been able to glean on a lot of his experiences throughout the process. But he's been out meeting with a lot of the businesses, checking in, doing follow-ups, and really trying to be kind of boots on the ground as well. As we get a little bit closer, especially to the July 10th date, what you're gonna see, you've probably already seen a lot of parking officers in these lovely blue shirts. They were excited to wear them, so they started wearing them. Look for those shirts. Those are the people that are gonna be able to help you, that are gonna be out there to help people. This is how you use the machines. This is how you use the app. Here's how you download the app. We will also have ambassadors here from our parking vendor company. So they will be out showing people how to use the app, how to use the machines. They're gonna be setting up sort of some locations where we can hand out swag. So different things where people can download the QR code from, different fun things that are tied to kind of our Beat Beat Salem logo website. So you may see their tables downtown or them walking around, and they'll be handing out everything from coasters with QR codes and logos to dog bandanas to the wrap cards. We've got some wallet cards that we're gonna be handing out that people can write down their license plates. So if you don't wanna have to remember it, you can keep it in your wallet all the time. Also links to the QR code. If you go to our website, we have some FAQs up there for the pay stations, for the app, just to once again, try and help people understand kind of what's going on. The only thing that you won't see up there yet is we do have 3 different videos that we're gonna be launching. 2 are how-to videos. So one is very specific to the pay stations. How do you use them? It's actually very easy to understand. They did a great job on it. I'm hopeful that we'll be launching that tomorrow, if not very beginning of next week. We're just finalizing some translation to it. And then we're also gonna have a how-to video that's specific to the app. That I think will get finalized today or tomorrow. One of the bugs we've been working out with the app is sort of the ability to get the notifications. And so we just fixed that, and so that's giving us the last sort of piece of video that we need to insert into that in order to get that video up and going. So the goal is for early next week, probably we'll have both of those launched. And then on July the 7th, we'll be pushing out a press release and some more information. With that, we're gonna be pushing out another video, and it's basically an announcement video. So the idea is we can share that with especially our partners in the hospitality business, to say, hey, there's all these kind of changes coming to downtown. There's paid parking, there's an app, here's where you go. So as we've been doing outreach, you know, folks like the Holman Hotel and the Convention Center and some of our residential buildings, I've been asking if they would be interested in having those announcement video files so that they can share it with their customers. They can, you know, put it up in their facilities to let folks know what's happening. We'll be asking Travel Salem if they're interested in it as well. So that's kind of how things are gonna be rolling out over the next couple of weeks. It was a lot in a very short amount of time. So what questions do you have? And I will do my best to answer them.
Well, we knew some of the negative feedback and comments were inevitable with
Yes,
change.
of course.
You know, we knew that was coming. I just downloaded the app, looks pretty sweet, even though some key features are disabled,
Yeah,
pretty
it's-
pretty intuitive.
It's easy to use. We've been playing with it in test version for about 3 weeks now.
Mhm.
And it's very simple to use. What you'll find, and just I can kind of talk you through it a little bit because you can't see it. So what'll happen is when you see the map, you'll start to see basically little colored icons that are gonna pop up. And it's gonna indicate if you're downtown or if you're in the Capitol or somewhere else. We're actually color coding all of them right now. You'll click on it, it'll tell you how long you can park there for, what the rate is. The rate's the same everywhere in the city except for the airport, so it makes it pretty easy at $1.50 an hour. Once you click that you wanna purchase it, what's gonna come up is basically a dial. And you can just move the dial for as far as you wanna go for parking and it'll show you this is how long it'll be. The other thing that's really nice is even though it's 12 hours, when you pull up the dial, if you pull up the dial at noon, it's only gonna give you the ability to pay for 8 hours of parking. Its enforcement only goes until 8 o'clock. So it's not as though you can accidentally pay for 10 hours of parking and you only wanted 2 hours or something like that. You have the ability in there as well to set your notifications, so if you want a reminder that your time's about to expire, whether it's a 15-minute reminder, 20, 30, 45 minutes, you can kind of set that to your own preference. The other thing that'll happen is, on most of our phones, we kind of have our notifications that are always, we have little icons up at the very top. So once you pay for parking, you'll have a little car that's gonna be at the top of your phone. If you just kind of slide down, there's basically a timer that's constantly running. So at any point, you can just slide down, you'll see the little car in a bar and it'll say, you have 12 minutes and 50 seconds, 49 seconds, 48, and it's just counting down for you. So it's really easy to kind of see, and from there you can extend as well. Little button there, you can extend, you can add more parking to it. You can have more than one vehicle in your profile. You can save your credit card, but you don't have to. If you're not comfortable with keeping your credit card in an app, you can just plug it in each time, it's completely up to you. So there's a lot of sort of features like that. If you go to the airport, it is a little different. You click on that and it's basically just gonna be a pull down and it's based on day. So you just pick the amount of days you wanna park at the airport and plug it in and go. So you don't have the dial features since they do everything kind of in 24-hour increments.
Can you have multiple cards in a profile?
You can, yep.
That's good because I know some people use business cards for business purposes, personal.
Yep, it'll allow you to set up your profile and manage it kind of however you want. So you can have multiple vehicles. And you can set up multiple profiles. So you could actually set up like a business profile if you wanted under one email address and a personal one under your personal email address if you didn't want to kind of combine them together. And then if you were, for instance, gonna pay for parking and it's something that you were expecting to be reimbursed, when it comes up on your credit card statement, it'll say City of Salem parking meter. I've done a lot of tests, so I've seen it on my credit card statement at this point, and it just says City of Salem, parking meter. So it's really easy to kind of turn that around if you need to, as opposed to it being something unusual or unique where it's got a strange code or something of that nature.
And I know you're very busy with the implementation and all the front end work that's going into getting this tooled up and operating. We've been talking about implementation of paid parking for
Since 2012,
long?
2013 was the parking task force, which I did staff back in the day.
Yeah, so we've been talking about it for a very long time, and now we're finally arrived.
Mhm.
So getting to the purpose of why we're doing paid parking, which is one of the things to articulate in the education to the general public about it actually providing a budget with actual money in it. So I wanna keep that front and center of the purpose. So as you roll it out and as revenue starts coming in, have you stood up and have a framework and a process for tracking the revenue? And then that question, then a comment. We would love to see that as a fixed part of our agenda, just like we track the parking garage revenue and parking garage allocation.
Yeah, so that's great, and I think the question, I feel like that question has come up before, because I feel like Sheree actually brought it up before she
It's a good question.
retired, so I think that makes it a little bit easier. So in terms of the rollout, the benefits definitely, so I think it's one of those things where depending on who you're communicating with, the benefits kind of hit differently, right? So the budget part is huge because it means eventually, hopefully, if everything is successful, you're not gonna have a zero ending fund balance, you're not gonna have to rely on the general fund for things like, security. And that will grow so that you can enhance safety, you can enhance security, you can enhance the cleanliness, you can start to look at some of those things that the EID back in the day used to be able to help cover because you had that funding source. So I think that's a really big part of it. And honestly, even when we did the survey back in the fall, a lot of the feedback from people was if the money's gonna stay downtown, they were very supportive of it. And what we're doing is we're not changing the essence of the parking fund. So, you know, the way the parking fund has historically worked, the tax stays within the downtown, the money gets spent in the downtown.
Right.
We're not changing that structure,
Right.
we're just adding a new revenue source to it. So the way that it's set up, the funds will continue to stay within the downtown. Now, in terms of sort of how that grows, you know, that's where this board is gonna be instrumental because you still oversee the parking fund. So you'll be able to sort of start to have those conversations, especially after the first year, where you can start to see how do those revenues come into expenses and what does that mean for sort of, you know, the future of the fund and abilities. Of course, you know, there's certain things to take into account. So first, you know, the system is gonna have to be able to pay for itself. So that's, you know, there is a cost associated with running this system. So
Yeah, we just do those forecasts.
that'll be the first thing that you're gonna have to, you know, keep an eye on, of course. And then after that, obviously, you know, what is the general fund been helping cover? So that's gonna need to be covered by the new system. And then being able to phase out the parking tax, making sure it's covering that. And then after that is where you can start to have sort of those conversations. In terms of the revenues, I think and I don't wanna speak for Bill, but we're lucky we have Bill here. I think what I've heard is quarterly reports are something that would probably be able to be provided at a very accurate level. Especially after the first couple months, you're not gonna get a good read.
Sure.
But I think once you get through the first couple of months and then on a quarterly basis, getting those updates, I think will provide kind of what you're looking for projections.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And the only other thing I would point out is, you know, we're also promoting this tied to, you know, the city has a climate action plan. To reduce emissions, you know, to help with global warming and a lot of other things. And paid parking was one of their first priorities to implement downtown. It's actually kind of how this got moving in the first place.
That's right, that's how we bought the equipment.
And so, you know, that's one of the pieces in our, you know, if you go to the website, when we talk about, we also say it's accomplishing, you know, a goal of the climate action plan that was adopted by the city. And the other thing is, you know, it's just purely from a parking demand standpoint, and you take the revenues out of it. I mean, you all know this, you've heard it from Rick Williams for years and years and years. He told you back in the fall, you've been at above 85% on the street for over 10 years. That's when you make a change. And so it's sort of hitting three different kind of prongs, and maybe that's why it's kind of finally been able to get some legs this time. But it's accomplishing a lot of different things. And so I think those are all sorts of things that hopefully can come back to you all for updates, because it's not just the revenue. There's a lot of pieces that you guys are able to accomplish by moving this project forward.
Is the cost for parking the same in the app versus the kiosk?
So there is a transaction fee of 35 cents when you use the app. So that's the difference. So it's $1.50 an hour no matter what, but there is a 35-cent transaction fee.
Who pays the?
The user does, and it does tell you that when you plug everything in, and it shows you your amount, and it'll say 35-cent transaction fee. It's very clear when you go to purchase, but there is that fee to the user. So, but we are not charging, we don't charge back like credit card processing. So although you are having to pay that, we are not charging like a credit card
So
processing.
who gets the fee?
It actually goes to maintain the app service.
It is the third party or is it city?
It is a third party. It's actually our parking vendor has an app. So we've actually been able to expedite this whole process because they have an app that syncs in with their system. So it's made it much easier. So we're not paying some monthly fee for servicing the app or monitoring the app or maintenance or anything like that. That's covered through the transaction fee. The only fee that the city has to pay tied to the app is a data fee for them to maintain and hold all of the data and everything. So that's kind of cut down on some of our ongoing
So that
costs.
fee covers all maintenance, like
Mhm.
equipment,
No, just for the app.
just for the app.
Yeah, so when you use the app, you're gonna get charged a 35-cent fee, and it's industry standard, pretty much when you go anywhere. I know even in Portland, if you use a pay station, they're charging you a transaction fee just for using a credit card, which we don't do that. But the app, there is a 35-cent kind of convenient fee, but it covers sort of the services for the app. We don't own the app, but we were able to basically, they call it a white label purchase. So instead of it being our vendor's app where everything is branded for our vendor, we're able to go in, modify it for Salem, use our branding, our colors, our look, make it Salem specific.
You guys can do it.
Yes, and so that's what you're seeing, but the base of it belongs to our vendor.
So do they pay the city the franchise fee?
No, there's no franchise associated with it.
Is that 35 cents per session?
It's for a transaction.
Sure, but if you extend, it's another 35 cents?
Yeah.
So if it's 1 hour or 10 hours, it's 35 cents, and if it's 1 hour, then you're like, oh, I need another hour,
It's 35 cents.
each time.
Yeah.
That's pretty lucrative.
It
Honestly,
is.
huh?
Yeah.
Maybe we should all get in the app
Why
business.
would you, no, honestly, why wouldn't you develop up yourself? And that's very lucrative.
That would have taken us many, many years.
I don't know, every kid makes an app, you know.
It would take the city probably many, many years. How about that?
Just have a kid from South Salem High School.
Right.
Is there any kind of loyalty program or opportunity for that?
Not at this point, you know.
Well, you know, like,
Yeah.
12 times, get an hour free or something like that.
There isn't anything set up like that, but you know, you're always welcome to give suggestions. The idea of the first year is the baseline year. Let's try and make it as easy and as simple and as flexible as possible, and then get feedback along the way, see how things are going, see if some changes need to be made, see, you know, how the system is working, because it is a big change overall. And then tweaks can be made, but the idea is kind of over this first year, kind of gather all of that. And then if you're gonna make changes, kind of make those changes in one batch versus like, oh, this month we're gonna do this, and then this month we're gonna try and do that, because that's just too confusing. It's too confusing to the businesses, it's too confusing to the patrons coming down, it's confusing for parking enforcement to try and do. So the idea was, what's the easiest, most flexible way to start things? And then from there, can kind of layer on, depending on kind of what everyone is sort of wanting and what is gonna make it, you know, beneficial for everybody.
My last question is the most important one, the other two were actually just jokes.
But I answered them for you.
Has the dog been named?
Yes, his name is Beep Beep. Not even joking. And would you like to know who came up with Beep Beep Salem?
No.
Shuri did. It was Shuri's brainchild. But what you might notice, especially those of you who are familiar with downtown, the design actually for the logo and the colors and sort of the theme of it are actually based off of the existing downtown wayfinding signage. So we use that color palette, and then back when we still had the EID, there was a lot of sort of graphics that were done for the different events, and we actually went back to that graphic designer and asked her to kind of help us come up with something that kind of went with that overall theme. So we did try to come up with something that was kind of fun and catchy and unique. Parking can be not fun, and so the idea was, let's come up with something that at least maybe puts a smile on people's face. But also tie it to what's already downtown and established, and that was sort of that wayfinding and design. So that's kind of how Beep Beep was created, just to make it a little fun, a little different. And when your notifications are up and going, actually when your time is up, you will hear a car horn and a dog bark.
Looks alright.
So settling.
Once again, let's just make it kind of fun. If we're gonna change things to a thing that people don't like, which is paid parking, how do we sort of make it maybe a little bit more fun?
Dog's name should be Parky.
That's very unique.
Even more.
Very creative.
Are there any other questions about it, or anything that's happening, or anything you'd like to know? Of course, we have our website. You know how to contact Tori, myself, Derek, anyone out on the street if you guys are getting questions. You know, we have been coordinating with Alan's team on marketing, because obviously there's a ton of commuting options if you don't want to park. So we'll be, we've listed stuff on our website, and we'll actually be doing handouts when we're out and about to let people know, like, hey, you can do bus passes for your employees, and there's other options as well. So just so people don't feel stuck. We want to make sure we're giving out not just our parking stuff, but kind of what else you can do, and it's been really great to be able to partner with them as well.
If people will ride more bikes.
It'll be interesting to see,
Or the bus.
or the bus.
Or the bus.
15.
I'm sure Alan will be able to give updated ridership numbers at some point, you know.
Conflict of interest for you.
Alan, please leave the room. Is there any other questions for Sarah?
Well, I have streetscape too, so you're not really.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Okay, well, please continue. And Sarah, thank you for all your work on this. I know it's been quite a lift with you and your team members, so.
Oh, you're very welcome,
Thank you.
and I just wanna thank everyone for their patience, no project is perfect, I think we really tried to mitigate the pain for everybody. But there's always gonna be that little bit, so if you aren't having any issues, just reach out to us so we can try to figure out a way to help as best we can. Derek's been amazing at sort of handling those things, so I can't give him enough credit, honestly, for the work he's been doing, so but moving on, we have our friend Beep Beep, who Charles wants to rename.
It sounds like an alien.
It's
Dog,
like a
turkey.
little car horn, beep beep, you know, you're just, I don't know,
Alright, that was free.
it's all good. I'll tell her when I talk to her,
Yeah,
I'll
no.
let her know. I'm sure she'll be down here checking things out. So Streetscape is, we're a little bit behind, I think most of you are used to us probably already starting construction by now.
Right.
So Public Works will be handling it as usual. Michael Miller, who I think you've probably all met at some point in time, is managing sort of that project. With Sheree leaving, we've kind of just divvied out a lot of things, so we're kind of dividing and conquering. So Streetscape is sort of hopefully gonna start here within the next month. You should start seeing stuff going offline. We just locked down our contractor a couple weeks ago. So like I said, we're running about a month behind schedule. The focus of areas kind of for summer through fall, we're hoping to start on the south side of Chemeketa between Commercial and Liberty. So that's singular block, and then we're gonna move to the south side of Court Street between Commercial and Liberty. And then we're gonna move to the south side of State Street between Commercial and Liberty. So the idea is that we would actually be starting here where the forge is, and they kind of have it already blocked off. So depending on the timing, their project goes till kind of the end of July, and then we would move into starting Streetscape, and we would kind of move along. We're thinking about a month for each block face, and we're hoping to only have one of those block faces closed at any given time. That's Michael's goal at least. So that's kind of what's gonna be happening next. We'll know more here in a few weeks after we have our pre-con meeting as to exactly what the contractor is planning, but that's kind of what we're gonna be shooting for. So we wanna minimize sort of that on-street impact as much as we can. And kind of go from there. You know, we're expecting that there's gonna be some basement vaults that are gonna have to be filled in, so that takes more time. So we're really kind of trying to factor that into everything as well. And then the next sort of chunk that you'll start to see, which will sort of start in the winter to the spring. So as you know, we kind of do two phases at once. So that's gonna be, since we were focusing on the south this time, we're gonna move to the north. So then it'll be the north side of Chemeketa from Liberty to Commercial, so we'll kind of go across the street, and then we'll do the north side of Court from Commercial to Liberty, the north side of State between Commercial and Liberty, and then we're actually gonna do the west side of Liberty between Court and State as well. We're expecting to go out for bid in October, and then that would start in January. So I'll have more as that one gets closer. So we'll kind of focus on 3 block faces here this summer, fall, and then we're gonna move to 4 block faces kind of over the winter. And then we'll start design for the next, because it's just gonna continue until we can do it all.
What are the main improvements?
Yeah, so you know, it depends on each block face, obviously. So if there's vaults, we're filling those in, because that's just, you know, a safety issue for a number of reasons.
Those are the things with the glass, like.
They're not always, no. So I actually learned, and Tori, feel free to jump in, because we learned a lot during West Rep actually about sort of the system. So my understanding was that a lot of the vaults were actually used to transport coal back in the day. And what's happened is, as the city has done projects, we've tried to go ahead and fill in some of those vaults, if property owners even knew that they had them. So some properties, they were very aware that there's a vault. So for instance, when the bulb outs were done for some of the curbs, we did a lot of vault fill-ins then. I know at that point in time, engineering was trying to work with a lot of the property owners to kind of get an inventory, so we knew where all the vaults were. But at the same time, some of the buildings, they're blocked off, so at some point in time, someone built a wall. They have no idea that there's even a vault there, so until we start digging underneath the sidewalk, surprise, I mean, actually right out in front of here, we didn't know that there was a vault, and we found one. So that's part of what is kind of the unknown piece to it. In addition to that piece, we're, you're getting water infrastructure, you're getting landscaping, new sidewalks, electrical capacity, so adding that to the down the line, you could do holiday lights or something of that nature, redoing all the tree wells. So it's just sort of cleaning everything up and putting all that infrastructure in place so things can be watered and you can have those downtown decor that you might like. Landscaping that is appropriate for downtown, that's not gonna pull up the sidewalks from its roots and things of that nature, but also fill in all that infrastructure underneath at the same time, so that hopefully we don't have businesses that then say, hey, we wanna do this work, and then we find a vault and we don't have the money to do it. Because we're doing these projects, it's a way for us to be able to kind of take care of that for folks.
Nice.
Little by little, but it's so expensive, 3 to 4 kind of block faces is all, and the more vaults we know we have, sort of, so, one of the things I talked to Michael Miller about is there's gonna be some phases where we already know that there's a lot of vaults. So that may be a phase where we can only do like 2 block faces depending on the funding level versus like the 3 or the 4, just because it's gonna cost so much more. So those are things we're starting to look at right now.
What do you fill in the vaults with?
I don't know what this is, yeah, but I can find out from you. It makes sense. I mean, I'm sure it's some combination of fill, but I can get the specific info and get that to you.
Curious.
I'm not an engineer, I just pretend like I know what they're saying.
When does the schedule move east of Liberty?
Well, let's see if he has it on schedule for me. The east side of Liberty between Center and Court is scheduled for summer 2025 to spring 2026. Is
No,
already
yeah.
the design. Yeah, that's all I have right now, but I can find out. I don't have the,
I just stare at it every day and go, it'll be changed.
it will be, but yeah, I don't know when that's on the schedule, but I'll ask him for the full, I think we have a full breakout and I can try and see if I can get that and get it over to you guys.
And I just have 2 follow-up questions.
Sure.
Is it still a plan to have no streetscape work being done during holiday time for helping out businesses or?
That is always, yeah, so that's kind of why they have it set for, it's like summer into fall, and then there's kind of this pause, and they kind of kick back off in winter.
Okay, and then second question, I'm assuming there's a pretty robust communication plan for anyone affected when the. Okay,
Yeah, so Michael reaches out to all the businesses, the property owners, as it gets closer, Public Works will always send notification, but then there's also sort of that stop by, talk to people, and Derek's actually gonna be helping with that as well.
okay,
So we sort of have 2, I mean, Cherie's kind of historically been really good about that, she knew everybody.
yep,
We've lost that, but Michael's made some really great connections downtown since he's consistently been the one down here. But then he'll be working with Derek as well, so we'll kind of have multiple boots on the ground. To kind of, here's what's happening, here's what's going on, and if you have any problems, let us know.
any other questions for Sarah?
And I'll find out what they fill it with, I'm really curious myself now, and I'll work on a full schedule.
I've seen the map, but I've never been able to, so that everybody's on.
I'm gonna try and see if I can just get a breakout, I mean, basically what he gives me is sort of just a bulleted list, like here's when we're doing what, and maybe that would be kind of helpful. So I'll see what he can get me, it's not a problem.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, no problem, thanks everyone for having me, I appreciate it.
Our last information report, completion of utility box art wraps, Derek MacArthur.
Yeah, so I started in October, and I took over the utility wraps, I brought in pictures of the last few wraps that were completed. And the location where they at. So back on. So as part of our streetscape and beautification of downtown, all of it is part of the Salem Art Collection.
Oh, so this is actually Salem artists.
This is for. Yeah.
Wow.
All the art was selected from the convention center, the civic hall, civic center, or the library.
Nice.
And the last wrap went up at the beginning of April. And those were kind of the last of the wraps being put up. Graffiti wise, I know that they've helped with the amount of graffiti. Also, I personally cleaned some of them that have been graffitied and they come out pretty easily. I've had Sharpie and I've had spray paint. All of them come out.
Huh. How many wraps did you do?
20 wraps.
Wow,
Very cool.
they blend in pretty nicely. I couldn't even pick out 20 of these things, you know,
Yeah,
seriously.
most of them are covered like towards the outside, so you get a measure coming in and then intermingled into the downtown. There are wraps that are previously out with the historic wraps, so they can.
So this was all done through the Public Arts Commission, right?
Yes, I believe this started with the public arts.
Very cool.
Nice.
Any questions for Derek? Awesome.
This
Derek,
looks amazing.
you've got your hands full. You've got a lot going on right now.
Yeah, but that's.
Well, July 10th couldn't come soon enough, right?
Oh, that makes a great question. Is there then an idea to wrap the bases of the pay station? I mean, they're just big black monoliths of boringness.
But they're from Sweden.
Yeah.
Well, they have to be able to open, so the very bottom is actually where they access for the battery. So they have to be able to open the bottom of it. It's a door,
Slice the wrap. I mean.
so.
Well, if you look
Whatever wrap.
at it, it has a wrap on the side, it's got a big peak. Right. It says paper.
But below it.
Yeah, it seems to be.
And we just got done beautifying the ugly box, and now we got a bunch more ugly boxes.
Sounds like Charles is signing himself up for testimony for the Salem Public Arts Commission.
Sure. Bunch of pictures of car crashes. That's a whole theme.
Alright, is there any other questions for Derek? Derek, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate the handout as well. Moving forward, agenda item number 8, next meeting topics. I'll send this right over here to my right to Charles, Mr. Vice Chair, you sent an email, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, as you can tell, I'm very formal and understand how procedure works, and so I didn't, and I was just like, hey, Tori, can we find out more about the strategic projects grant? A lot of times when it started, people used it for trash enclosures, and I think people think that's all it's for, but it's really for safety and security and anti-crime measures. Having just remodeled a couple of buildings and having other business owners chat, you know, very few, if I would just say none of them knew that it will pay for things like the roll-up doors that the historic folks recently figured out, kind of a streamlined set of rules for that. As well as, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's a type of film that can be applied to older storefront windows that make them less likely to break, or at least they don't shatter everywhere, because I had that happen, and so wanting to just get that education out there, but I was curious before I go say, hey, everybody, go get this program, I want to make sure, A, it was still relatively decently funded, and B, just curious who has gotten it so far, maybe not individuals, but just, you know, how popular has it been? Is it just in my head that it's about it? Because sometimes those things happen. So
Yeah, it's very popular, I do the grants, so I get a lot. Derek's going to be helping me on the strategic grant, so that'll be as he transitions out of the art stuff, he'll be handling some of the strategic side. We get a lot of applications and they vary, cameras, lighting. Doors, like you mentioned. Crash enclosures, so all those things.
Be great to get a report on the utilization.
yeah, and I don't know if it's fair, but I mean, I would even personally, I would reach out. I've taken it upon myself, I would reach out to any buildings that are still eligible that have not yet asked for it. Just because there's so many out-of-state property owners and they have to be the ones to apply, if I'm not mistaken, and so. You know, even Top Drawer, for instance, was like, hey, we would love to have this, and I have a good relationship with the guy, but you know, he's not filling out forms, he's not down here every day. And so I walked that business owner through how to go about doing it, I would just love to see it more utilized and even, you know, get a little card like this, or hand it out to those people and I'll go walk around. And do that, just because it's such a great program, so often the grants that are available, you know, the regular toolbox one, there's a match involved in this being 100% paid for. I don't know who would be upset about receiving that, so I just wanted to really get that word out there. So that was what predicated all that.
Yeah, great. Yeah, as far as capitalization, we're about to start fiscal year 26. So we fully capitalize, it draws from the same grant line item $6 million, so there's not a cap. So then,
Cap per user, right?
there is 30,000, yeah, per location, it's 5 years,
How much do you say?
30,000.
That's very decent.
Yeah.
That'll get you some lighting, cameras and
Yeah.
Or, yeah, those roll-up doors, I mean, really, any outgrowth
that's
more
for
than
spending.
12 inches, I mean, it's worth
You
doing.
know, I wonder. Might be. I wonder, I remember seeing in Seattle downtown, they have these specialized little trucks, it's almost like emergency services where every business can call and say, hey, I need you to clean. It's homeless people, they're a mess, they come, they spray this with whatever solution they make, they do, and people move on. So I wonder if that funding could be used to establish that service in Seattle. They're
That's
amazing.
a
They're not-
parking fund.
That may make it
might be able to get a little
hard.
harder.
But here we are trying to improve safety, but downtown gets pretty dirty, this is a solution. That's how you move people on. Hey, you gotta spray, it's a solution that you don't see. So I wonder,
All this power washing every other day. Pressure washing.
Well, I think these are like,
and they do it instead of police, police shows up, they cannot do it, right? But these guys show up and say, hey guys. They're gonna clean.
what you're bringing up is like a great idea. This is what we talked about. If this being implemented with the actual revenue coming in, we could actually consider and talk about doing this innovative type stuff. Even though that just sounds like completely pragmatic.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
you-
literally the big phone number, that every business can call, and say, hey, we need you to come. And
Watch, so.
wash your hands.
Yeah, urban rural funding, I think wheels needs to stay permanently attached to the district.
Yeah, that's right, so.
you're so much nicer than Sheree. Sheree would chastise us for getting that wrong.
I
Because
know. So it doesn't work with this one, right?
No,
Right.
that's not.
What if private business says, I will buy a truck, a cleanup truck, I need $30,000. For safety.
You're a counselor. That's not a renewal financing option. Something to keep in mind too with the strategic grants is, just like other grants, the profit. They have to get inception. We have had a couple that have been tied to nonprofits. So it's an option, but it has to go with the agency to consider. Yep, exactly.
Okay, so that's an exception.
Yeah, they have to get inception. The intent is to try to promote as much profitability
Yeah.
or profit in downtown.
Yeah.
So that. Yeah, obviously there's demand, this need is everywhere,
Yeah,
but in an effort to. Keep tabs on that.
Of course,
Nonprofit aspect of it, they want to control it at the agency level.
Quick question on the rolling doors. Remember we had the presentation last year on the rolling doors in front of, your store. Well, the ones that are, is it in your building?
probably,
Well, on, court there near, Governor's Company.
That's me.
Well, they're always closed, they're always down, and they're pretty ominous looking. I thought that.
I think those.
Man, they're gonna go out of business real fast, if they're always closed.
But my point is that the gate, the fence, the roll-up door would look a little more ominous than I thought the city was allowing.
Yes.
I mean, went through historic landmarks
Historic.
and most approved.
Huh?
It goes through historic, it gets through all their approvals.
So that's okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's better than, it's a little,
I mean,
you see it elsewhere, we don't have the gates.
Yeah, it's closed when they're not open. Yes, if they open.
what business is in there?
There's two new ones, well, Winslow relocated and one called Dittos, it's kind of like a Buffalo Exchange.
What exchange?
It's like a, what do you call it, urban. Boutique. Yeah, no, it was boutique, vintage. Clothing and such.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's pretty much all staffed by women, they're women-owned businesses, they're very thankful to have this additional security. That's why someone wants to top drawer because we're in a similar situation.
So on the topic of grants too, Derek, Dana, we've been reaching out to businesses and there's meetings within the existing capital improvement grant program to maybe fund some tenant improvements, some smaller projects. So they've been kicking around some ideas that we'll bring back in July, so that'll be tied to the next topic.
It's great.
What about changing windows out to safety glass?
Yeah, so there's things like that that we're looking at. So as we interact with businesses, we hear what the needs are. Seeing what fits.
That doesn't necessarily fit into the safety grant right now.
There's that film you can apply.
The film, yeah,
It's not-
somehow, I just had 2 windows broken.
Right.
And they put safety glass, and which isn't an all, an end all, but it's a determinant.
Did they
And-
do laminate or did they do
I don't
temper?
know.
Because we had a guy that walked and he was not homeless, he was mentally ill, he had his caregiver with him, and just last week he walked to our yarn lady, and all of our storefronts are really tall, 4x8s or 10s or something, not in this heel. He walked and bashed his head on it about 4 times and, crashed, and he didn't die. Like, really? Yeah, and Southtown campus are my favorite too.
Yeah,
And they ended up replacing it with tempered this time.
is the film tinted?
Doesn't have to be.
But that does work.
And it doesn't stop something from breaking, it just stops it from shattering everywhere. So it's kind of like your windshield, when it gets hit, it just sort of stays, so, yeah.
Yeah, we had that installed in our building.
Yeah.
It was, it still was, you could still see through it, retain that exposure, the
Yeah,
inside.
that would be a big question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bob, before we adjourn, is there any other consideration for next meeting topics besides strategic project grant utilization and innovative ideas? A block 45 update would be great too for a next meeting topic.
Yeah, I don't think people have anything to share at that point. It's still under confidentiality, so it's been,
Okay.
we've had multiple executive sessions with the agency. Between the 2 finalists. So as soon as we get to a point of a memorandum of understanding with the agency, and that'll be. So I'm hoping to do that in July, that'll be after. This is what, 24th, yeah, so probably I think I'm aiming for the 28th. So August or, I don't know, I think might be looking at August to cancel, but if we keep the meeting date, then that might be a time.
Okay, when it's ready, we'd love to hear about that. As long as there's no DEQ NFA to secure. Right? I shouldn't be joking about that. Yeah. Okay, is there anything else really good in the order before we adjourn? Great. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Tori. Thank you, Sarah and Darren.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for asking, we'll see you.
Yes,
Which one? The one downstairs?
which one did we say? The next one.
Did you?
We said, I think I realized.
Hey, Sarah.
Yes,